As you may have seen already, in free agency, Isaiah Hartenstein chose to sign with OKC for 3 years, $87 million, which means as of right now, if the season started today, Mitchell Robinson would likely be your starting center. I don't know if the Knicks are okay with that or they want more depth at the center position, because according to multiple reports, the Knicks are continuously working the phones trying to make a major trade happen. And the names that are on the list for the Knicks looking to make a major trade for are Walker Kessler and potentially Nick Richards of Charlotte. So we're going to break down all of these updates and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks are still discussing a Walker Kessler trade. Now, there's a reason for this, guys. As I said before, Mitchell Robinson, when healthy, is dominant. He is amazing defensively. We all know that. There's no denying his talent when healthy. The problem is, each and every single year of his career, he continues to get injured and he continues to miss games. And when that happens, the Knicks need to look to their bench. They need to look to their backup. It happened last year. We saw Isaiah Hartenstein blossom into a starting center, and unfortunately, he left. Now the Knicks are scrambling a little bit because they need to find another backup center. Right now, the only person that could back up Mitchell Robinson is Jericho Sims. And being honest here, he is quite young, still green, doesn't have the exact same skill set that we need for a backup. But the Knicks, they're working the phones and they're trying to get another big on this roster. Whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench, that's anybody's guess. But if the Knicks could have their way, the big that they're targeting to trade for is Walker Kessler. Let's break down these latest reports from Ian Begley of SNY about the Knicks talking to the Utah Jazz. Shout out to Evan Cedardy from, I believe, Sports Illustrated on the app X for giving us the following information. The Knicks have inquired about a potential trade again for Walker Kessler. Teams continue to call the Jazz about their top players as they ponder whether to sell or not. And according to New York Basketball on the app X, and this is also coming from Ian Begley, the Knicks have been monitoring trade market, vet centers, young centers, big contracts, smaller, Walker Kessler among them, a source confirms. I assume the Knicks will continue to look at backup center options, including talking to Precious Achiuwa. Now, Achiuwa is still a free agent. Who's not a free agent and who's on the Charlotte Hornets is Nick Richards. And he's another player that the Knicks are potentially looking to trade for. Now, the Knicks-Richards situation and even the Walker Kessler situation, that's not anything new. What is a little bit new, though, is that the Knicks are still, even right now, working the phones, trying to make that trade happen for Kessler. They are trying to talk to Utah to see what their price is. If this was any other team, I would think that Leon Rose could work his magic and get Kessler on this roster. The problem is, as we all know, Utah Jazz equals Danny Ainge, and Danny Ainge equals obstacle, and obstacle equals you're paying a lot to get the player that you want. And knowing the Knicks and all the moves that they made recently, what they're trying to do is ensure for everything that they have moving forward, that they keep their core together and they remain flexible. And if that's the case, they have to make sure they're not trading away everything that they have to get one player that's still a question mark. Because Kessler, even though he's young, and I think he would be amazing on this team, in my opinion, not only does he fit the age timeline, but if he came off the bench, that works. If he starts, that works as well, too. He gets paid just a little bit, and he's a great defensive player already. Imagine what he becomes under head coach Tom Thibodeau. You're talking about great to amazing. Look at Mitchell Robinson. What was he before Tom Thibodeau? What is he now? When healthy, the most defensively monstrous big we have in the entire NBA. That's not by accident. Tom Thibodeau helped create that. He can do that with multiple big men depending on their skill set. Walker Kessler would fit this team amazingly. I hope the Knicks can pull off that trade and get it done. Similarly, if they can get that done, I don't mind them going after Nick Richards because, again, you need players off your bench that can play starter minutes if an injury happens. Nick Richards was doing that basically all last season for Charlotte. So since that's the case and he has experience, I don't mind the Knicks going after him. It's all about the price point and the cost. If you're not getting the right cost, if you're not making the right amount of moves and you're not getting the player back that's worth that cost, I don't think the Knicks are going to make it. Leon Rose, this Knicks front office, they have been very careful in the players that they've added, the moves they've made, the money that's gone in and out, the contracts that's gone back and forth, and the picks that have gone back and forth. They're controlling that because they know moving forward, they have to move this way if they want to continue to compete for a championship and build a better roster. Adding players like Kessler absolutely does that. But when we're talking about the Knicks, we may be talking about, well, they did make that major trade for Mikal Bridges. So when you're asking yourself, if they want to trade with Utah, that's likely going to ask for a lot, what do they have to offer in terms of a trade? Well, if you're asking that, Fred Katz from The Athletic, he has that answer. So according to Katz, if the Knicks want to trade for another center, they don't have to blow their remaining draft capital. The Detroit Pistons 2025 first round protected through the first 13 picks next year with protections that keep it from conveying until 2027 and a first round swap in 2026 and 2030 right away. If they're able to include that, along with all the second rounders that they have as well too, as well as the Washington Wizards 2025 first round pick, if you're looking to try to ask what the Knicks could give up in a trade to get Walker Kessler, Nick Richards, or any of these trade targets, they could give up all of the draft picks we're seeing right here. According to Fred Katz, these are the things that we can utilize right now. Nobody thought the protected picks were going to come in handy, right? Nobody thought the protected picks were going to do anything for this Knicks team. Well, maybe not, because now with the roster that we have, we don't need to make massive moves. We just need to make the right moves to help this roster improve. Kessler is that right move. And maybe if Ainge is a little bit sour on Kessler and his improvement, and that's what the reports were indicating. If a lot of people were asking, well, why would Utah want to trade away Kessler? At least from some of the reports that I've read, it's because Kessler did not show up the way he needed to last year. He didn't take that step that everybody thought he was going to. And because of that, he fell out of favor with the organization. Now, potentially, if that's the case, the Knicks could get him for something a little bit cheaper. They could potentially get him for a couple of picks, maybe a couple of second-round picks. He makes a little bit of money, which means the Knicks can get him without having to give up another player as well. It's all up to Utah and if they'll make that deal done. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to say it in the comments. You've said it in a number of my other videos where I was covering the topic of Walker Kessler and if the Knicks should trade for him. And each and every time I did that video, all the comments were pointing to the fact that potentially the Knicks could trade away Deuce McBride. Let me tell you something. If the Knicks did not include him for the Mikal Bridges deal to get that done, it's a reason for it. They value him. They value him off the bench, and they want to keep him long term. So Deuce is loose, and he's going to stay loose in the New York Knicks front yard. And he's not leaving our front yard. And he's staying here. And he's going to protect the bench, come off the bench, and go off like we need him to. You don't believe me? You want to take my word for it? Don't take my word for it. Listen to Ian Bagley, our resident SNY NBA insider. Take a look at what he had to say. As noted entering free agency, the New York Knicks had very little interest. One more time for everybody in the back. Very little interest in trading Miles McBride. In addition to today's Milton/Decade deal, Knicks entering free agency had at least one other deal lined up to avoid the hard cap. When they made the initial Bridges trade, they felt they'd be able to avoid the hard cap at the first apron. They did so with today's deal and will be hard capped at the second apron, $189 million, and be able to spend the $5 million taxpayer mid-level exception. So that's why when people are talking about if Miles McBride will be included in any deal, unless that deal is for a legit star, a star that I never thought could be available, unless that type of player is available, Deuce is not going anywhere. He's going to remain on this team. So if you're looking for the Knicks to get Walker Kessler, you better hope they get him without having to give up any players and just giving up picks. He makes a little bit, and the Knicks have enough room right now where they can absorb his contract. Not only that, but they have the mid-level taxpayer exception as well, too. They can utilize that to get another player that potentially can help impact this team in a positive way. And that's what we're looking to see here. Leon Rose and this Knicks front office, they have been cooking cooking all offseason. They're not going to get enough credit. Oh, Mikal Bridges was an overpay. Overpay, really? To get the final piece to make us potentially a championship contending team for the next 4 to 5 years. And the picks that we gave up, at least 3 of them are going to be late round picks. That means the likelihood of the Nets hitting something very, very significant at that pick is extremely low. And if that's the case, and the Knicks are still confident that they can find talent in the second round and sign those players and get them on this team, then that tells me they have a plan for the future. Sometimes when the Knicks made these trades, it's like they didn't have a plan afterwards. The Knicks making this trade for Mikal Bridges outlines at least a 4 to 5 year plan of chasing the championship. And then once those 4 or 5 years are done, we have enough talent on this roster and enough players on this roster to be able to do it again even faster. That's what Leon Rose is trying to do. He's trying to make the good times never stop, that they keep rolling in. How do you do that? You make this team good for now and in the future. Leon Rose, cooking all day, cooked. And this is the result. A team that is championship ready to take it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals and maybe beyond that next year. If you enjoyed these clips from the live show, be sure to subscribe to the channel and have notifications turned on so you don't miss any new episodes or when we go live. Thanks for watching, Knicks fans, and until next time, peace.